Let us step back, far back in time. Not to the age of kings or empires, not to the first farmers or hunters, but to a time so distant that it feels almost unimaginable. 6.5 million years ago, the Earth was still young in many ways. Continents were changing, and new forms of life were emerging while old ones slowly faded away. The world was in constant motion, a planet alive, restless, and untamed. Close your eyes for a moment and erase everything you know today. There are no cities, no roads, no fire, no tools, no homes. Humanity does not exist. The Earth is silent of human voices. What you would hear instead is the call of wild birds echoing through vast jungles, the rustling of giant leaves in humid forests, and the distant roar of predators claiming their territory. This was a world of raw survival. Every sunrise brought new dangers, and every sunset carried the shadows of death. It was a world shaped not by technology, but by tooth and claw, by rain and drought, by the endless cycle of life and death. And in the midst of this untamed wilderness lived small, fragile creatures. They were not yet human, not by a long stretch, but they were not quite like the apes we know today either. They balanced between two worlds, one in the trees where safety lay high above the forest floor, and one on the ground, where new opportunities and new threats awaited. Their hands clung tightly to branches, their feet still adapted for climbing, yet something within them was changing. Their teeth, their bones, their posture, all carried subtle hints of what was to come. They could not have known it, but these small shifts were the very first whispers of humanity. Imagine a young female of this species, perched on a tree branch, scanning the horizon as the sun sets in golden light. She doesn't know that millions of years later, her descendants will walk on the moon, build cities, or create languages to tell their story. To her, there is only the forest, the need to eat, the need to survive, and the constant threat of predators lurking nearby. Yet within her, hidden deep in her DNA, lies the future of mankind. This was the dawn before the dawn, a chapter in history where nothing was written, no fire was lit, no tool was made, but where the first steps of our journey had already begun. Tonight, we will travel into that lost world. We will explore the Earth as it looked 6.5 million years ago. We will witness the environment that shaped our ancestors, the animals that shared their world, and the struggles that carved the path from ape-like creatures to modern humans. This is not simply history, this is our story, the oldest chapter of our existence. This is life 6.5 million years ago. 6.5 million years ago, the Earth's face was both familiar and strange. If you could stand there, you would recognize the rivers, the mountains, the skies, yet everything would feel raw, untouched, and vastly different from the world you know today. The climate of the planet was shifting. Long before humans shaped the environment, nature itself was in control. Powerful winds swept across endless landscapes, carrying the scent of rain and the dust of dry plains. Seasons were more extreme in some regions, with heavy downpours flooding rivers during one part of the year and searing droughts cracking the ground in another. Life had to bend, adapt, or vanish. Africa, the cradle of our origins, looked nothing like the modern image we carry today. Imagine vast green forests stretching for miles, dense, humid, and echoing with the cries of unseen creatures. The canopy was so thick that sunlight barely touched the ground below. Within these jungles, vines wrapped around towering trees, and insects buzzed in countless numbers. The air was heavy, filled with moisture, alive with the constant sounds of nature. But these forests were not eternal. Beyond them stretched open grasslands, savannas where tall golden blades of grass danced in the wind. Herds of early antelope, like creatures, grazed here, while predators prowled the shadows. The savanna was both an opportunity and a threat. For our ancestors, stepping out of the safety of trees into these open spaces meant access to new food sources, but also exposure to danger. Further north, deserts were beginning to form, and mountains rose against the horizon, shaped by tectonic shifts deep beneath the earth. Volcanoes occasionally roared, spewing ash into the skies, reminding every living creature that the planet itself was alive, restless, and unpredictable. Every drop of rain, every gust of wind, every crack of thunder was part of the great stage upon which the drama of evolution unfolded. To survive here meant more than just eating and drinking. It meant knowing when to climb and when to hide, when to risk the open plains, and when to cling to the safety of branches. Imagine standing at the edge of a forest 6.5 million years ago. To your left, endless green stretching into mystery. To your right, a sea of grassland shimmering under the blazing sun. Behind you, the echo of rivers and swamps. Ahead of you, the call of the unknown. This was the environment that shaped our ancestors, an environment that forced them to adapt, to experiment, and slowly, step by step, to change. It was here, in this mixture of forests and grasslands, rain and drought, safety and danger, that the first sparks of what we call humanity began to flicker. The land itself was the teacher, and survival was the only lesson. For every tree that fell, new ground appeared. For every drought that killed, only the strongest survived. Nature was sculpting life with harsh hands, and in this crucible of struggle, our ancestors were being shaped for the journey ahead. No, let us look closer to the creatures who carried within them the first sparks of what we would one day call humanity. They were not fully human, not even close. But they were no ordinary apes either. They belonged to a delicate bridge, a stage in evolution where nature was quietly sculpting the foundations of our future. Scientists believe that around this time, some of the earliest known species in our lineage appeared. Creatures such as Sahelanthropus chidensis or Orontugenensis may have walked the earth. Their skulls were small, their faces still ape-like with heavy brows and jaws built for chewing tough plants. Yet, hidden within their bones were secrets that set them apart. Unlike the chimpanzees we know today, some of these ancestors may have begun experimenting with walking on two legs. Not all the time, not perfectly, but enough to mark a turning point. Imagine a creature that climbs trees to escape predators, but when it moves across open ground, it balances awkwardly on 2 feet. This change, small, fragile, uncertain, was the first step toward something extraordinary. Their hands still gripped branches, their long arms pulled them up into the safety of trees, but their hips and legs hinted at a future where walking upright would become the norm. This shift may have begun not because they wanted to stand tall, but because survival demanded it. Standing on 2 legs meant you could see further across the grasslands, spot danger before it arrived, or carry food back to safety. But let us not romanticize their lives. These ancestors did not know what they were becoming. For them, life was a daily struggle. Every sunrise meant hunger. Every shadow carried danger. They had no tools, no fire, no weapons. Their defense was to climb quickly, to hide, or to run. Their existence was fragile, balanced on the edge of extinction. Picture one of them, a small group of ape-like beings, huddled together in the branches as night falls. Their eyes shine in the moonlight, alert for predators lurking below. The roar of a big cat echoes in the distance. A rustle in the grass makes them cling tighter to each other. They cannot fight back, but they can endure. And endurance, silent, patient endurance, would become their greatest weapon. These were the ancestors who lived between 2 worlds, the world of the forest, which offered safety and food, and the open savanna, which held both opportunity and death. Each choice they made, where to search for fruit, when to risk the ground, when to return to the trees, shaped the destiny of future generations. They could not imagine it, but their small experiments in walking, their constant struggle to adapt, their determination to survive, would echo through millions of years. Step by step, bone by bone, choice by choice, they were becoming something new. They were not yet human, but within them, humanity was waiting, silently, patiently, for its time to come. While our ancestors were just beginning their uncertain journey, they were far from alone. The Earth, 6.5 million years ago, was alive with creatures both familiar and completely alien to our modern eyes. The forests were filled with primates of all shapes and sizes, relatives of monkeys and apes, swinging through the branches, calling out with piercing cries that echoed across the canopy. Some were fruit eaters spending their lives high above the ground. Others were bold enough to climb down, searching for insects, roots, or fallen fruit. Our ancestors were just one of many players in this crowded stage. But outside the forest, danger waited. Across the savannas, early ancestors of today's big cats prowled silently. These predators had sharp fangs and unmatched agility. A single mistake, stepping too far into the open, could mean death. To survive, our ancestors had to remain cautious, always alert, always aware that they were not the hunters but the hunted. Large herds of grazing animals moved across the plains. Early forms of antelope and wild cattle fed on the tall grasses, their hooves pounding the earth like drums. These herds attracted predators, creating a deadly cycle of chase and escape. Crocodiles lurked in rivers and swamps, striking with terrifying speed at anything that came too close to the water's edge. And yet, not all animals were threats. Some offered opportunities. Birds with sharp eyes soared above, their cries warning of movement below. Small mammals scurried across the ground, sometimes becoming prey, sometimes helping spread seeds that fed the forest. Even insects, buzzing, crawling, biting, were part of the great web of life that shaped the balance of this ancient world. Imagine standing in that time, you hear the distant trumpeting of an ancient elephant species, far smaller than the giants of today, but still powerful. You see a flash of movement in the tall grass, the silhouette of a predator stalking. Above you, monkeys leap from tree to tree, shrieking in alarm. And in the middle of it all, clinging to the safety of a tree trunk, sits a fragile ancestor of ours, watching, waiting, surviving. This was a world overflowing with life, each creature locked in a struggle to endure. For our ancestors, every animal around them was a reminder of their place in the chain of survival. They were not the rulers of this world, not yet. They were just small participants, learning the hard lessons of life among giants, predators, and endless challenges. It was within this living, breathing, dangerous wilderness that the story of humanity slowly began to unfold. Life, 6.5 million years ago, was not about comfort. It was not about progress, discovery, or invention. For our ancestors, every single day was a battle for survival, a test written by nature itself, where failure meant death and success meant living just one more day. Imagine waking at dawn, not in a home, not in a shelter, but on the branches of a tree, clutching to the bark with trembling hands. The forest stirs to life around you. Birds scream, insects buzz, and the shadows of predators fade with the rising sun. Hunger gnaws at your stomach. There is no breakfast waiting, no guarantee of food at all. You must climb, search, forage. Perhaps you find a handful of berries, bitter roots, or wild fruit. Perhaps you find nothing. For our ancestors, food was the first challenge of every day. Fruits ripened only at certain times. Leaves grew scarce in drought, and competition was fierce. Other primates fought for the same resources, and larger animals could chase them away with ease. Water was another struggle. Rivers were not safe havens but dangerous traps. To drink, you risked an ambush from crocodiles or predators hiding in the tall reeds. Every sip came with the fear of death. And then there were the hunters. Big cats stalked silently in the grass, their eyes fixed on the weakest or slowest. Hyena-like creatures prowled, their jaws strong enough to crush bone. Even the air carried danger, as eagles with sharp talons swooped down on the young. Our ancestors had no claws, no fangs, no speed to match these killers. Their only defense was awareness, quickness to climb, and the strength of staying together. Nightfall brought its own terror. As the light faded, so did safety. The forest grew louder with the calls of nocturnal beasts. Eyes glowed in the darkness, watching from every direction. To survive the night, our ancestors clung to the branches high above, huddled together in small groups. Fear was constant. Sleep was light, broken by the sounds of predators moving below. But survival was not only about avoiding death, it was about endurance. Step by step, day after day, they adapted. They learned when to move, where to hide, which fruits to eat, and which to avoid. They discovered that being in a group meant protection, more eyes to spot danger, more hands to defend the young. Imagine a small band of these early ancestors, moving silently at dawn, mothers carrying infants tightly against their chests, older ones watching nervously for danger. They speak no language, but their cries, gestures, and instincts bind them together. In their unity lies their only chance of survival. This daily struggle, to eat, to drink, to stay alive, was not just survival. It was the training ground of evolution. Nature was shaping them, testing them, forcing them to adapt in ways they could not understand. And though they lived without tools, without fire, without hope for tomorrow, every small victory against hunger, every narrow escape from predators, every night survived was another step toward becoming human. For them, survival was not guaranteed, but survival was everything.